There are some pitfalls in CSS that have to do with how we select our HTML elements. And when you have a small project, those are not very obvious immediately. But when your project becomes bigger and more complex, or multiple people start working on the same project, that's really when you can run into some pitfalls when you select your HTML elements. So in this video, I want to show you those pitfalls and how we can use BEM, which is what we've been using so far for our classes, how we can use BEM to solve those issues. So let's go through some examples here. So let's start with the naive approach, right? So let's say that we are beginners or we are just new and we don't know about any of these issues. So let's say that we have a card and we have a comment and we are working on the home page here. Right, so just ignore these comments here, or these commented out elements here. So let's say that we give this body an ID of homepage. Right, this was actually pretty common back in the day. You would give each page on your website its own ID. So let's say that this would be the ID of homepage, and the idea with an ID is that it is unique. So we should not use this ID of homepage for any other element. And then let's say that we also give this div here a class of card, because this should not be unique. We can have multiple cards on the page. So those should get the same selector. And so we cannot use an ID, we should use a class in that case. And the same goes for the comment, right? So this div, we can have multiple comments. So we don't want to use an ID, we want to use a class, because we can use classes, we can use the same class name for multiple different elements, right? And then some elements are not getting either an ID or class. We are just going to select those by their tag names, right? So these images here and these paragraphs do not have a class or ID. We're going to select those by their tag names. All right, and then in our style sheet, we could do something like this, right? So again, just ignore these commented out selectors for now. So what we could do, for example, is we could select all paragraph elements on the home page, and we could set a very big font size of 50 pixels. So this selector means select all elements with a tag of P that are in an element with an ID, right? Because we're using this hashtag symbol here of home page, right? And if you hover this selector, you can also see what we're selecting, right? So we're selecting all paragraph elements in an element with an ID of home page. Right? And we're setting the font size to 50 pixels. So which elements on the page are getting that 50 pixels now? Well, this element, right? Because it's a paragraph in an element with an ID of homepage. And this one as well, because this is also a paragraph on the homepage. Now let's say that we, or again, maybe someone else working on the same project, right? So just imagine that our project now becomes much bigger, much more complex. We have multiple style sheets, right? So multiple files, multiple people working on it. Eventually, you or someone else could write something like this. So maybe we want to select all paragraph elements in a card. So this means select all elements with a P tag in an element with a class of card. And here we actually want to make the font size pretty small, 16 pixels. So now the question becomes, which is going to be applied? Because if we look here, this paragraph element is sitting in an element with a class of card, right? So it is selected by this selector here. But it is also selected by this selector here, right? Because this is still a paragraph element in an element with an ID of homepage. So of course we have a clash here because the browser can only apply one of these, right? An element cannot have both a font size of 50 pixels and 16 pixels. So the browser needs to decide which one should be applied. And the mechanism through which it decides which should be applied is called specificity. So what the browser does is it's going to look at the specificity of these selectors. And the one that is more specific is going to win. So the specificity, if you hover the selector in Visual Studio Code, you're going to see something like selector specificity. So these are like, you could say, the points. It's not exactly like that, but conceptually right now we can think of it like points. So this selector has basically 101 points. So it gets the 100 points because we're using an ID selector. An ID selector is very powerful. And then it also gets another point here, 1 point, because we're using a tag selector. Right, so in total we have 101 points. And the other selector, well, only has 11 points because it gets 10 points for the class, right? So class is less powerful, it's less specific than an ID. So with a class, we only get 10 points. And then we have 1 point for the tag selector in here. In total, this has 11 points and this has 101 points. So this is more specific. So the paragraph element, this one, is still going to have a font size of 50 pixels. Which is going to be surprising to us because when we write this, right, so in the real world, this is not going to be directly below here. This is going to be maybe in a completely different file, right? Or maybe at the bottom of the style sheet, right? So when we create this style, we're going to expect that this paragraph is going to get 16 pixels. But when we go to our page, we're not going to see that, right? And that's the problem with these specificity battles, because of course, this is just one example. But you can have dozens of these types of clashes in your style sheets when your projects become bigger, and especially once you start working with other people who may have a different preference on how to select elements. And so what some people even try to do is they try to use the important rule here. This is like a trick to force the browser to apply the font size, to apply this declaration, even though this is less specific than this one. Right, so this is like an escape hatch from that specificity mechanism. Well, this is also not really what we want to do. Now we make it even more complicated, right? Because now we're deviating from the normal rules, right? And we're sort of forcing the browser now to apply this. So we also don't want to start doing this because then we're going to have these important rules all over the place and it becomes even more difficult to manage. And there is another problem with what we're doing here, which is that let's say that we decide in the future that this should not be a paragraph element anymore. Maybe it should be a span, right? Or some other element. The point here being is we could change the structure of the HTML. And now we're not selecting this text anymore because this is not a p tag anymore. This is a span. Whoops, not spam, span tag. Right, so now it's not selected by either of these anymore. And so it's also quite fragile because if we change the structure of our HTML, it's possible that we're not selecting certain elements anymore. Right, so basically my point is there's tons of issues with doing it this way. And so over time, people have come up with all sorts of solutions, but the first, improvement that we can make here is basically to not use ID selectors anymore, and also not select by tag name anymore with these types of complex selectors. What we're going to do instead is we're going to give each element that we want to style its own class. And then we just select directly by that class name, right? So then we're not going to have these specificity battles anymore because everything has the same specificity. So it's going to be very clear what's going to be applied. And it's just much easier to manage. And also it's not going to be dependent anymore on the HTML structure because we're going to select every element by its own class. All right, so let's do that now. Let's give each element that we want to style its own class. Right, no ID selectors anymore. So then we arrive here. So now we've given each element its own class, right? So this div for the card has a class, the comment. The image now also has a class, right? So this image in the card has a class of img image. The paragraph element has its own class, right? And the same goes for these in the comment, right? And then if we want to style this, we would simply select all of those elements by those classes. Right, so this is already better, but there is one problem with this, which is that we now have a clash in our selectors again, because now the image in the card and the image in the comment, they have the same class, right? And the same goes for the paragraph element in the card and in the comment. They have the same class of text. And this is very common because Well, we can have images in cards, and we can also have images in comments. And what is the first, well, class name that you think of when you have to think of a class for an image tag? Well, just img, right? Or maybe image. But basically, it's pretty common that, again, once your project becomes bigger, more complex, multiple people, is that you're going to have accidentally the same class names. And so the problem with that is that maybe the image in the card, maybe we want to give this a height of, let's say, 100 pixels. And maybe the image in the comment should get a height of 50 pixels. Well, they have the same class. So how do we do that here, right? Because if I set the height to 100 pixels here, well, they're both going to get a height of 100 pixels, even though we want the image in the card to be different from the image in the comment, right? So what we basically don't want is for the styles for these elements to overlap. So we want some modularity. We want to style this image in isolation from the image in the card. And the same goes for the text, because maybe the text in the card should have a font size of 25 pixels. And the font size in a comment should maybe be a little bit smaller, like 18 pixels. Well, that's going to be a problem because they're going to have the same class. And this is really where BEM shines, because if we follow the BEM structure for our class names, we get this. Right, so now we're not going to call it img anymore. We're going to make it an element on the card block. Right, so this card becomes its own block or module or component. Right, and then these elements in there, they're going to be tied to that block. So we're going to make these elements on that block. So we write card underscore underscore img, which is a different class name from the class name for the image in the comment. This class name now is comment underscore underscore img. Right, so basically we're now namespacing this img on the comment block or on the card block. But they now have different names for the class. So if we want to make this a height of 100 pixels and this should get a height of 50 pixels, well, we can just select those individually. Right, we could say, well, this should get a height of 100 pixels. That's for the card, the image in the card, and this should get a height of 50 pixels. Right, so now we don't have that clash anymore. So basically it's more modular right now. We have sort of a card module, right? And we have a comment module. And the styles for the comment image do not affect the styles for the card image, right? And the same goes for this text. This text now is namespaced on the card block. And the text here is namespaced on the comments block. So these are different class names. And so we're going to have different selectors for those. Right, so this is the power of BEM. It gives us these unique class names. So we're sort of creating modularity in our code. Now, if you're using something like React, Angular, or Vue, there is the concept of components. And within those frameworks, it's pretty easy to get this modularity out of the box with something like CSS modules or CSS in JS. There are a couple of easy solutions to get that scoping of styles. But here we're not using React, Angular, or Vue, so we need to come up with some other system to give us that modularity. Now, if you want to learn more about BEM, it has its own website called getbem.com. And, well, you can read all about it there. So I'm not going to go completely through this, but basically it shows you how it works. And there is a very important saying here, maybe you've seen this before. There are only two hard problems in computer science: cache invalidation, well, that's not important here, and naming things, right? So you can see that naming things is actually quite tricky, even in CSS, right? So there is a block, which is a standalone entity, meaningful on its own. And then we have elements that are part of a block. They have no standalone meaning. They are semantically tied to its block. And then we can also have modifiers. So these are basically variants of a particular block or element. And let's see, they also give an example here somewhere, yeah, in the introduction tab. they give an example here, right? So we have a UI here, and well, the blocks are in green and the blue ones are elements on a block, right? So block standalone entity. So for example, this menu here, we also have a menu in our project. And then these individual menu elements, those are semantically tied to that overall menu. And so they are elements. And then we can also have modifiers. So for example, maybe an input that is disabled, or a checkbox that is checked. Maybe that needs different styling from an unchecked checkbox, right? So here, for example, this input, they make that its own block. And then here we have another input, but this input should be bigger. So this is a variant of that normal input block, right? So size big. And then the button could be a block. And then we want to use that block again, but in this case, it should be a green variant of that button, right? So to also show you how those modifiers work, if we have a card block, and in this case, for example, we want a bigger version of that card block, then we could add big as a class name here, right? We can have multiple classes. But maybe somewhere else we have a comment block, but maybe we also want a big variant of that comment block. So we then also add big to our classes here. So now we get that same issue, right? Because now we have the same class used for different blocks, and they probably should have different styles, right? Maybe a big card should get a height of 500 pixels, and a big comment should get a height of 250 pixels, right? So for these types of situations where you have variants, we also have a way of doing that in BEM, which is with 2 dashes, right? So now this becomes a card dash dash big class, and this becomes comment dash dash big. So now these are 2 different classes, and so they don't clash anymore. But we still keep the first class, right? So it still gets the styles from this first class. We just modify it a little bit with the second class, right? So that's why we're using BEM here in this course. Now, if you're using something like React in your project, which is going to be the case most of the time if you're doing front-end work, well, maybe you want to use a different solution to get that modularity in your code. So there's actually very easy solutions in React to get that modularity. There's something called CSS modules. There is CSS in JS, and there are other solutions as well. Now, some people actually like using BEM also in React because the other solutions, they may have certain downsides, right? So I still think it's a good idea to use this at least once to get a little bit of an intuition for how it works, and also conceptually why we're using this.